So now let's try to solve selected problems during our last quiz. So tingnan natin. The first problem is, okay, ang tanong, what amount should P Company present for goodwill in its statement of financial position on December 31, 2020? We should actually take note of the date being asked. Kasi ang tinatanong niya is December 31, 2020. And we know na we have 1 year or 12-month measurement period from which we can adjust the provisional amounts assigned, and thus yung fair value, yung goodwill computation natin will accordingly be retrospectively adjusted. So, tingnan natin. Ang sabi, consideration transferred is 80 million. So, the 80 million is given. So, next, minus the fair value of the net assets acquired within the measurement period. Pero take note, ang tinatanong is as of December 31, 2020. So, kunin mo lang yung fair value of net assets acquired hanggang December 31, 2020. Kasi yun pa lang yung alam mo at that point in time. So, magkano siya? 70 million given din siya. And then, your goodwill is then 10 million. So, ang tricky lang dito sa problem na to is actually the date being asked. So, dapat alam mo na as of December 31, 2020, you should only consider yung information available as of that time. Okay? Next problem tayo. Ang tanong mo, after the combination, what is the total shareholders' equity of Spyfall? So, this is actually an asset acquisition. So, ang mangyayari, in-acquire ni Spyfall, si Suspend. So, the shareholders' equity after the business combination is actually the shareholders' equity of Spyfall before the business combination, and then any transaction affecting your shareholders' equity, like, for example, tingnan natin ha. So let's start with the shareholders' equity as of or before the business combination, which is 15 million na capital stock, 2 million na APIC, and then 6 million na retained earnings. That's a total of 23 million. Then, nag-issue ka ng additional shares actually to acquire Suspend. So, that's computed as, dapat kunin mo yung fair value as of acquisition date, which is 120 pesos times the number of shares issued, which is 150,000 shares. So, you have total of issued shares, 18 million. Your indirect cost, kasi if pag yung indirect cost, di ba, automatically expense siya, whether direct or indirect, the acquisition-related costs, na direct and indirect costs, are actually expense. So, kapag expense yun, it will be a reduction to retained earnings. When you reduce retained earnings, shareholders' equity is accordingly reduced. So, bawasan natin siya by 50,000. Also, the share issuance, kasi it reduces share premium or additional paid-in capital by 110,000. So, share premium is reduced, shareholders' equity as well is reduced. So, your shareholders' equity after the business combination is actually 40,850,000. Next problem. So, you're looking for the consideration transferred. The amount of the consideration transferred, ang key lang naman dyan should be at fair value. So, that is computed as the number of shares na inisyu ni P to S, which is 5 million shares, ito new shares issued, times the market value or market price per share, which is listed and actively traded naman siya. So, that's a reliable measurement. So, that's 25 per share. Your consideration transferred is 125 million. Next problem. Ang hinahanap mo, how much is the goodwill to be recognized as a result of the business combination? Assuming NCI is measured at fair value. So, let's compute your consideration transferred is 35%. Ito kasi, ang kakaiba sa problem na to, meron siyang previously held equity interest. So, sabi ko, during our lectures, ang lalagay mo lang sa consideration transferred is the percentage or the amount na binili mo, the interest acquired as of the acquisition date. So, that's 35%. Pag ano mo siya binayaran, that's 4.3. Add mo yung previously held equity interest at 20%. Given bias, given yung fair value nyo. So, yun na yung kunin mo. That's 1.8. Then, you have your NCI fair value computed at. Ang tricky kasi dito, kapag hinanap mo yung fair value ni NCI, ano kaya yung magiging basis mo? Is it the fair value of the previously held equity interest or the fair value of the consideration transferred? Mas reliable kung binigay directly yung fair value ng previously held equity interest. Kasi yung consideration transferred, hindi ko naman sure kung fair value lang yun. Possibly, baka meron kang control premium kasi doon. So, ang kunin mo, na mas reliable measurement will be the previously held equity interest, which is 1.8 million divided by the percent of that, which is 20%, times 45% na NCI. Paano naging NCI naging 45% si NCI? Kasi meron kang binili na 35, meron kang previously held na 20. So, ang total mo na owned sa kanya, ang controlling interest mo is 55%. So, your non-controlling interest is 45%. And that's 4,050,000. Less the fair value of net assets acquired, which is given din naman siya, so 8.4 million. So, your goodwill is computed at 1,750,000. Next problem. Okay, ang hinahanap natin, the amount of goodwill or gain to be recognized resulting from this, assuming NCI is at proportionate share. Compute natin. So again, your formula is consideration transferred at 80%, given yung 80%. Pero magkano yung binayaran mo? 1.5, given din siya. Then your non-controlling interest at proportionate share is computed as 1.3 million kasi sabi mo Sony's carrying value is equal to their fair market value. So kunin mo yung carrying value niya, which is 5. Okay, bakit ang kukunin natin shareholders equity? Kasi shareholders equity is also equal to net assets. We know that from basic accounting. So let's compute your net assets at fair value ni acquiree is 500,000 for ordinary shares, 300,000 for APIC, and then retained earnings 500,000. Your total shareholders equity or net assets is at 1.3 million times the percentage of the NCI, which is 20%. You'll get 260,000 pesos. And then your fair value of net assets acquired is 1.3. Yung kinumpute natin kanina na 500 plus 300 plus 500, 1.3 million. Your goodwill is 460,000 pesos. Next problem. Okay. Ang hinahanap mo naman, amount of goodwill assuming NCI is measured at proportionate share. Okay, so compute natin your number of shares acquired. Ito kasi ang kakaiba sa problem na to. Hindi niya sinabi kung ilang percent yung in-acquire mo as acquirer. So, para ma-compute mo yan, tingnan natin. Ang sabi, ang binili mo daw is 800,000 shares. Ngayon, ang kailangan mo na lang, ilan kaya yung outstanding shares niya? Total outstanding shares. Para yung number of shares acquired over total outstanding shares, that's gonna be your percentage of interest acquired. So to get that, the number of shares acquired is 800,000 divided by the total number of shares ni acquiree. Makakompute mo yon kasi binigay yung book value ng ordinary shares and we know that ordinary shares are recorded at par. Tapos 5 pesos yung par niya daw per share. So you'll get the total outstanding number of shares is 5 million divided by 5 peso par. That's gonna be 1 million shares. So ang in-acquire mo pala effectively is 80%. Computed as 800,000 over total 1 million shares. Okay, so let's compute for the goodwill. That's computed as consideration transferred, which is 800,000 shares times the acquisition price, which is 13 pesos, 10.4 million. Your non-controlling interest at proportionate share daw is 10 million. 10 million is computed as the fair value of the net assets acquired, which is current assets 2 million, PPE 11 million, less the liabilities of 3 million, you'll get 10 million. So times 20% NCI, that's 2 million, less the fair value of net assets acquired. Na kinabit natin kanina, that's 10 million. Your goodwill is 2.4 million. That's it. Next problem. Okay, ito medyo mahaba. Dalawa yung tanong niya pa dito. Determine the amount of consideration transferred and the total assets of named company, which is the consolidated entity. Kasi merger to eh. Nag-merge sila. So, the surviving company immediately after the merger. First muna, compute natin yung consideration transferred. Ang sabi, the offer was for shareholders of JA to receive one named company share with a market value of 125 for every 4 shares held. So, ang sabi, yung shareholders daw ni JA, kung ako shareholder ako ni Ja, sa bawat 4 shares na meron ako, i-issuehan ako ng 1 share ni Name. So, ilan yung total number of shares na i-issue ni Name to the previous shareholders of Ja? That's computed as, edi ilan yung outstanding mo? 7.5 million at par divided by 50 par. That's 150,000 shares outstanding. Divided by 4. Kasi in every 4, bibigyan ka ng isang share ni Name. So, the total number of shares ni Name na i-issue niya to the previous shareholders ni Ja is 37,500 times the fair value at the acquisition date na 125. Your fair value of the total shares issued is 4,687,500. Pero wait lang, may dagdag pa. Ang sabi kasi, in addition to the shares, Name company will transfer its shares in listed company. So, kunin mo yung fair value as of acquisition date nung ibibigay mong shares in listed company, which is 750,000. And also, Name will pay Jack Company sufficient cash to enable Jack Company to pay its creditors. So, magkano ba yung total creditors? Sabi, babayaran na ni Name bago niya bilhin si Jack. So, magkano yung total creditors or total liabilities ni Jack? That's 2 million na accounts payable plus 1.5 million na mortgage loan. So, ang total na babayaran ni Name na liability ni Ja, which should form part of the consideration transferred, is 3.5 million. Your total consideration transferred is then 8,937,500. Okay, next problem. How much is the total assets of the surviving company after the merger? So, total assets mo, assets ni acquirer at book value. Add mo yung assets ni Ja at fair value. Kasi 'di ba ganon, kapag si acquirer, book value lang siya, walang gagalawin sa books niya. Pero pagdating kay acquiree, i-fair value mo yung books niya, yung assets niya. And then, i-minus mo lahat ng mga binayad ni Name. Kasi di ba nagbayad siya kanina? So, lahat ng mga pinambayad niyang utang ni Ja. Kasi mga binayaran niyang ano pa, iba pa. Nagbayad siya ng... Yun pa lang naman. So, tingnan natin. Okay, consideration transferred. 8 million. Nanap mo total assets, no? 8,937,500. Okay. Before pala, compute muna natin yung goodwill. Kasi remember that the goodwill recognized will affect the assets after the business combination. So, your consideration transferred, yung kanina, 8,937,500 minus the fair value of net assets acquired for AR, kasi hindi mo in-acquire yung cash. Ang sabi nga, bibilhin mo yung all assets of Jack Company except cash and shares in listed company ni Jack. Hindi mo yun bibilhin, so hindi yun mapupunta sa'yo. So, ang mapupunta lang sa'yo, AR, 1,060,000. Inventory, 1.3 million at fair value, kasi may fair value ka sa baba. Land and building at fair value as well, 4 million. PPE is 5,250,000. Book value equals fair value. So, same lang. Your total fair value of the net assets acquired is 11,610,000. Thus, meron kang gain on bargain purchase kasi mas malaki yung fair value of net assets acquired kaysa sa consideration transferred. Thus, wala kang goodwill. It will not affect. Pero, for sure, para sure ka lang din, palagi dapat computein mo pag naghahanap ka ng total consolidated assets after the business combination, always compute for goodwill. Kasi baka goodwill yun eh. Nagkataon lang na in this problem, gain on bargain purchase. So, safe ka. Okay, assets ni Name, excluding shares in listed company, kasi, yung shares in listed company, pinambayad mo to the previous shareholders ni Jack. So, wala na yun dun sa merged company, dun sa surviving company after the merger. So, that's 21,750,000 computed as 7,750,000, 1,728, hindi kasama yung shares in listed company. And then land and building 3.5, PPE 6.5. That's 21,750,000. And then nagbayad ka kasi ng cash. 'Di ba? Para pambayad dun sa mga utang ni Jack. So pag nagbayad ka ng cash, credit cash, edi pa boss yun sa assets mo. So cash payment ng 2 million for the accounts payable, and then 1.5 million for the mortgage payable. 3.5. Then, yung asset ni Ja at fair value, yung mga in-acquire mong assets. Nasa taas kanina, di ba? Yung AR 1060, inventory 1.3, land and building 4 million, PPE 5 to 50, total of 11,610,000. Goodwill 0. Pero again, pag nag-goodwill ka sa taas, i-add mo yon. So, total assets after the merger is 29,860,000. Meron pa ba? Meron pa. Next problem, ang tinatanong, if acquiree's net identifiable assets had a fair value of 400,000, how much is partial goodwill? And we know when we say partial goodwill, your NCI is computed at proportionate share. Let's compute. So, consideration transferred is, ilan ba yun? 60,000 shares times 6 pesos. Okay. On July 1, 2020, kasi meron ka rin previously held dito eh, acquirer agreed to buy an additional 60,000. So, ito yung binili mo as of date of acquisition, which is 60,000 shares times 6 pesos per share. So, meron ka din previously held, which is yung 30,000 kanina, 30,000 on January 1, times 5 pesos. Kasi 5 pesos, talaga yung fair value niya, may piso kang control premium. Again, control premium should be included. For purposes of goodwill computation, control premium is included in the consideration transferred but excluded in NCI fair value and PHEI computation. So, excluded siya doon. Next, your NCI is at proportionate share, right? So, that's gonna be 400,000 na fair value of the net assets acquired, given naman siya, times 10%, that's 40,000. Less the fair value of net assets acquired, 400,000. Your gain on bargain purchase is 150,000. Next. Question is, of the recorded goodwill, 40,000 belongs to NCI. Determine the percentage acquired by parent. So, si NCI may share siya ng goodwill. And we know na kapag si NCI ay may share ng goodwill, it is recorded at fair value. Okay, kasi kapag NCI is recorded at proportionate share, wala siyang share sa goodwill, diba? Tingnan natin, okay? Solution, the consideration transferred is 900. Highlight ko ha. Nung color, yellow na lang. Okay, consideration transferred is 960,000. Hindi ko naman nakikita. Ayun, 960,000. But inex ko siya. Dapat highlight. Ayun, 920,000. Yung consideration transferred. That's the amount recorded as the investment cost under the parent company. So, we know, ine-eliminate yung investment cost. So, yun yung consideration transferred mo, the 920,000. Next, the NCI at fair value, recorded din siya, 280,000. And doon din siya, lumagpas. Next, goodwill, less goodwill, 200,000. Pagkano yun? Ayun, record mo din dito. So, actually, basically, tinitake out lang natin yung computation natin from the recorded. So, balancing mo is the fair value of the net assets acquired 1 million. And then, NCI at fair value, we know that this entry is NCI is recorded at fair value. NCI portion niya na goodwill is 40,000. So, your NCI without goodwill is 240,000. To compute for the percentage of NCI, that's 240,000 proportionate share of the net assets acquired divided by the fair value of net assets acquired na sa taas yung kinompute natin kanina na 1 million. So, your NCI is basically 24%. Thus, the percentage acquired by acquirer is 76%, which is 100% minus 24%. Okay, next. Okay. Ang tanong mo, of the goodwill recorded or reported in the consol balance sheet as of acquisition date, how much is attributed to NCI if it is measured at proportionate share? Dito pa lang actually, alam mo, zero na yung sagot. Kasi nga, kapag si NCI is recorded at proportionate share, wala siyang share sa goodwill. Nagkakaroon lang siya ng share sa goodwill kapag NCI is recorded at fair value. So, definitely the answer in here is 0. Pero para lang may ma-compute tayo kasi baka nabobore na kayo. So, compute natin consideration transferred is 80%. So, that's 300,000. That's given. The fair NCI at fair value is 300,000 minus 10,000. Kasi yung consideration transferred mo, it includes 10,000 control premium. So without the control premium, that's the fair value of your consideration transferred is just 290,000. Divided by 80% times 20% is 70 to 500. Your fair value of net assets acquired is 350,000. Your goodwill, actually this is full goodwill. Full goodwill is 22,500. Pero the goodwill attributable to NCI is just again 0. Oh, meron pang isa. Ang tanong mo naman, what amount should the surviving company present for goodwill in its separate statement of financial position as of December 31? Okay. Ang question mo dito kasi meron kang contingent consideration. Tapos meron kang revaluation. So, hindi pala contingent consideration. Sorry. Meron kang revaluation. So, meron kang measurement period adjustment. And we know na tatanggapin natin yan within 1 year. So, your consideration transferred is 32 million given siya. Your fair value of the net assets acquired is, kunin mo yung pinakang malapit dun sa December 31, 2020. As of December 31, 2020, provisional fair value of 27 million. So, 27 million. Your goodwill partial is 5 million. That's it. Thank you.